I have been attached to the Earth mission at the Vethrani Concord for 11 years. In that time, I have watched two senior ambassadors age visibly in the course of a single session. I have seen a Vethrani presiding voice lose his register mid-sentence when our lead delegate declined to stand for the opening invocation. I have filed 409 routine administrative requests, of which 403 were acknowledged and 281 were eventually processed, and I have stopped counting the difference between those two numbers because the arithmetic leads somewhere unhelpful. I mention this because I want to be precise about what it meant. On the morning of the Concord's 11th plenary of the 7th administrative cycle, when Cadet Attaché Len Morrow, 23 years old, 8 weeks into his first posting, still carrying the slight bewilderment of a man who has not yet learned to hate the transit corridors, asked me, in a voice just above a whisper, whether our lunch reservation at the Vethrani Trade Quarter was still on for the 13th hour. He asked this while a Concord charge reader was 22 minutes into a 40-minute formal censure of the Earth mission. I will tell you what a formal censure of the Vethrani Concord looks like, because it is a production, and the production is the point. The Concord ceremonial chamber seats 412 delegates across 6 tiered arcs, and for a censure of this grade, Tier 1, formal and public, every seat is filled. The charge reader stands at a narrow lectern in the geometric center of the floor, beneath a dome of pale amber glass that throws everything in the chamber into a kind of institutional twilight. The human mission stands at a dais at floor level, below and in front of the charge reader, positioned so that the full 412 can observe our faces. The dais has no chairs. You stand for the duration. This is deliberate. This is the entire design. I had been briefed on the censure's content 2 days prior. The charges were, in substance, a complaint about the mission's administrative correspondence. We had filed, over the preceding 8 months, a series of requests using a procedural category the Concord claimed had been formally deprecated 18 months before our filing window opened. The Concord's position was that we had done this deliberately to generate procedural ambiguity. Our position, filed in writing and entered into the record by our senior delegate, Ambassador Orena Voss, before she had taken the morning shuttle to the medical station on Verith 4 with a stress fracture in her left foot, was that we had used the category because it remained active in the Concord's own publicly accessible procedural index. Which it did. We had the download timestamps. Ambassador Voss's absence was not an accident of timing. She had, with characteristic economy, arranged her medical leave to coincide with the censure session, designated me as acting mission representative, and left me with 2 instructions. The first was, do not explain anything. The second was, take Morrow, he needs the hours. So there we stood, me, 2 steps back and to the left, watching. Morrow, at the center of the dais, in a clean mission blazer, hands clasped behind his back, head slightly forward, the posture of a man paying respectful attention at a technical briefing on a subject he has already reviewed. The charge reader was a senior Vethrani administrative officer named Tessov Kale. I had encountered him twice before in corridor contexts. He was very good at his work. His voice carried the particular quality of Vethrani formal register, which is designed to fill a domed space without effort, a kind of pressurized calm that is meant to feel inescapable. He read the charges in full. He read the supporting citations. He read the administrative correspondence log, entry by entry, for the relevant 8-month period. He read the Concord's formal finding of improper conduct. He read the recommended remediation framework. He paused, at the 20-minute mark, to allow the chamber to register the weight of what had just been stated, and the chamber did register it. There was the precise silence of 412 bodies performing attention, and then he continued. Morrow, during all of this, was still. Not the stillness of a man enduring, the stillness of a man who is present and unbothered, which is a different thing. His eyes tracked Kale at the lectern with mild, genuine attention, the way you watch a colleague demonstrate a procedure you already know but are willing to observe again out of professional courtesy. His posture did not shift. His expression did not shift. He was not performing composure. He was simply composed. At the 30-minute mark, I noticed a change in the chamber, not in the humans, in the Vethrani delegates. Tier 1, formal and public, has a specific emotional architecture. The charge reader speaks. The censured party receives. The receiving is visible. contrition or defiance, or the closed-off blankness of a mission that knows it is beaten. Any of these reads, any of these gives the chamber something to respond to. What the chamber was not architectured for was the mild, attentive expression of a 23-year-old cadet attaché who appeared, to any honest observer, to be following along. There is a sound a Vethrani chamber makes when the expected emotional response does not arrive. It is not a sound exactly. It is the absence of the small confirmatory adjustments 412 bodies make when they are receiving the reaction they anticipated. The chamber at the 30-minute mark was very quiet, in a way that was different from its intended quiet. Cale reached the final paragraph of the censure at the 39th minute. The final paragraph is the summation, and it ends with a direct address to the censured party. In Vethrani formal ceremony, the direct address is where the presiding officer of the censured body is expected to indicate, by inclination of the head or by a brief verbal acknowledgement, that the charges have been heard and the Concord's finding received. Cale finished the summation. He looked at Morrow. The chamber looked at Morrow. Morrow glanced at his timepiece. It was a small motion. Wrist, eyes, wrist. 2 seconds at most. Then he leaned the 3 inches toward me that the dais geometry permitted, and said, in the conversational undertone of a man double-checking something he had already arranged but wanted to confirm. The reservation at Cella's, 13th hour, yes? I said yes. He nodded. Once, the small economy of a man whose schedule is now confirmed, and returned his attention to Tessoff Cale. The silence that followed was not the intended silence of the censure's final moment. It was a different kind of silence. The kind that happens when a room has been building toward a specific destination for 39 minutes and has arrived to find the destination closed. Cale held his position at the lectern for 11 seconds. I counted. Then the Concord's presiding voice, seated in the elevated central chair of the first arc, a senior Vethrani named Oreth Vel, who had convened the session and whose office had scheduled the session and whose staff had prepared the charge reader's text, cleared his throat with the small deliberateness of a man reasserting the room. The Concord's censure is entered into the permanent record, Oreth Vel said. The Earth mission is expected to confirm receipt and submit a remediation acknowledgement within 30 administrative days. Morrow looked up at the first arc. His expression was the same it had been for 39 minutes. We'll review it, he said. 3 words. Flat, without inflection. The tone of a man who has been handed a document he will file appropriately. The session was closed 14 seconds later. What I remember best is the corridor afterward. The Concord's administrative wings have a long corridor between the ceremonial chamber and the transit hub, pale stone underfoot and amber light panels overhead, and Vethrani delegates use it in a particular way after sessions. They slow, they collect in pairs and small clusters, they process. It is an informal decompression the architecture accommodates. Morrow walked the corridor at a normal pace, not fast, not a walkout, simply the pace of a man heading to lunch. I walked with him. Around us, in the slowing clusters of Vethrani delegates, I caught the specific quality of attention that a room directs at something it has not yet categorized. Not hostility, something more uncomfortable than hostility. The look of a body that has run its established procedure correctly and arrived at an output it did not expect and does not yet have a framework for. We filed the remediation acknowledgement on day 12 of 30. It was 4 sentences. It confirmed receipt of the Concord's censure, noted the Earth mission's position regarding the procedural category, still active in the Concord's own index, download timestamps attached, and stated that the mission would continue filing under applicable categories as listed in the current Concord procedural reference. The Concord did not respond within the subsequent 30 days, or the 30 after that. On the 63rd day following the censure, the procedural category in question was quietly removed from the Concord's public index. No notification was issued to the Earth mission. The next morning, the mission filed its first request under the successor category, which we had identified and pre-cleared the week prior. Ambassador Voss returned from medical leave 8 weeks after the censure session. She reviewed the file, the record entry, and the mission's subsequent filings in approximately 40 minutes. Then she set the file down. She did not ask what had happened in the chamber. She had, I think, a reasonable working hypothesis. What she said was, "How is Morrow settling in?" I told her he had found a good lunch spot in the trade quarter. She said that was the important thing. She said the trade quarter was where you learned what the Concord was actually made of when no one was watching, and that a young diplomat who understood that early would go far. She was right. She usually is. The censure is in the permanent record of the Vethrani Concord's 11th plenary of the 7th administrative cycle, where it will remain. We do not discuss it. There has been no follow-up inquiry, no secondary proceeding, no further formal action. 14 routine administrative requests have been filed since the session, under the successor category. 11 have been acknowledged. 7 have been processed. I have stopped counting the difference between those two numbers. Or rather, I count, but I have stopped finding it unhelpful.